That's Sodapup.
Hello, and welcome to the Sodapup Enrichment Lab podcast, where we speak to experts, authors, practitioners, and brands about canine enrichment practices. Join us as we learn from our guests how to help our dogs lead a happier, healthier, and more enriched life. And now, here's your host, Chris Chandler.
Hello, and welcome to the Sodapup Enrichment Lab podcast. I'm your host, Chris Chandler, and today I am really happy to have Emily Breslin with me. Emily is a dog trainer. She has a certification in enrichment. She is a canine nutritionist, and she is the host of Straight Up Dog Talk, a podcast. And we are doing a collaboration, or not a collaboration, I guess a cross-pollination. So Emily is with us today, and then we are also going to be with Emily on her podcast coming up. So welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. I always love to be on other podcasts. I think it's really fun to kind of, just like you said, cross-pollinate the feeds and just educate where we can.
Yeah, that's great. So Emily, M and I met. We met at the met at the Super Zoo trade show in Las Vegas this summer, and I want you to tell us first a little bit, if there's anything else you just want to tell us in terms of introducing yourself, but I also want you to tell us a little bit about the adventure that you're hoping to embark on.
Sure. So I have basically been almost, I would say, you could say I've been pretty much everything in the industry except for an actual veterinarian and a groomer. I was a vet tech for a really long time, about 8.5 years, and I loved that. I probably never would have left. I was actually going to school to become a veterinarian, and then had some medical complications and had to have surgery. They told me I would never work with animals again. So I went through a divorce and I moved back to Iowa. And from there, I started a pet sitting and dog walking business. And I did that for, many years, about 8 years. And then COVID hit and kind of shut that down. And during all of that was when I realized that my dog Fitz was a reactive, shy, different kind of dog that I had never experienced before. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to help him. And it did not go well because there's way too much misinformation out there. There's way too much, do this way, the cookie cutter information that doesn't work, the quick fixes that don't work, all the things. And so what ended up happening is I decided that the best thing to do would be to become the dog trainer that I needed, which then turned into this whole podcast and me trying to educate across a different platform, which then led to me deciding that, well, one of these days we're just going to get an RV and we're going to load it up and we're going to travel around the United States. And instead of doing the podcast interviews like this, we'll do the podcast interviews in the RV in person or on location for the business and just kind of meet everybody. And I think that the biggest goal with the RV journey is to show people that it doesn't matter if you have a reactive dog, you can still live the life that you want to live. You just have to take the steps and the precautions that you need to get there.
Great. That's exciting. I hope that works out soon for you to be able to hit the road.
We're getting there.
So one of the things that we talked about when we met and then in subsequent conversations was about that people go into enrichment, and particularly when they're first learning, and as you referenced just a little while ago, often their only knowledge is the kind of cookie cutter knowledge, and people are not clear about their own expectations, what they're hoping to get, and they are not really clear about what their particular dog needs or would benefit from. So I'd love for you to talk more about that and what you've learned about that and your experience in that situation.
Sure. So, when I first learned about enrichment, I had no idea what it was. I had never even heard of it. And I decided to start learning about it because I started obviously seeing all these really fun lick mats and feeding opportunities for dogs. And of course, I mean, we all knew what Kongs were because Kongs have been around for ages, but I don't think that they were ever explained as enrichment for dogs. They were just a toy, right? You filled it up, you gave it to your dog. Sometimes you froze it, sometimes you didn't. And that was just that. It was just a thing we did. It wasn't ever explained. There was no science or benefits behind it. It was just something that we did for our dogs. And then when I started seeing that, people were kind of expanding this with lick mats and stuff, I was like, oh, okay. But then I decided I really wanted to learn about it. So I signed up for a program through a company called Dognostics. They're based in Clearwater, Florida, and they have an enrichment technician program. And so I went through that program and I got a certification as a certified enrichment technician or something like that. And they teach you so many things. I mean, they teach you all about sniffing and licking and how it helps your dogs mentally and emotionally and how you can use it for overstimulation. But then they go beyond and they explain, it's not just mats. Unfortunately, with social media, the way that it is, that's kind of how it's presented to us. Like, give your dog a lick mat. It will chew them, it will calm them down. And my responses as a trainer, I would get, well, my dog goes through a lick mat in less than 2 minutes, or my dog just chews them up, or my dog this, or my dog that. And I would always say something to the effect of, well, have you done this? Or have you tried that? Or have you given your dog something to destroy instead? Have you given them a variety of things to destroy? And people would be like, well, why would I do that? Well,
Yeah.
because lick mats are just the surface. Like, that is like the icing on the cake. It's like, the very last thing that you should be giving your dog in the enrichment process. You play and then you lick, chew, and then you get your choo at the end. So
So
it's
when you describe that particular process, are you describing the like kind of the prey cycle, or what is that based on?
so there are other people that I have chatted with this about. Megan from Swift Paws and
Uh-huh.
Aina from Pawsler. We talk
Yep.
about enrichment stacking a lot, and it is based on the predatory sequence. The bite, kill, chase, all of those things. Definitely, anybody who's listening should Google the predatory sequence because it will explain so much. But it's the progression that a dog goes through from like smell to like the hunt and kill stuff. And by giving your dogs a variety of activities or a variety of activities within activities, you can satisfy those predatory sequences without them destroying a lick mat. One of my favorite things to do is create an enrichment trash box. So grab a box from Amazon, some egg cartons, some brown wrapping paper, some toilet paper tubes or paper towel tubes, maybe some empty cereal boxes or miscellaneous boxes that you've gotten in the mail, and just kind of like stack everything inside each other, layer it with treats or food in the middle of it, and then just like pile it all up in the box and let your dog just go ham. I mean, who cares if they destroy it? You were going to throw it in the trash anyway and recycle it.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to watch. Like,
Yeah.
and by the end of it, your dog is exhausted, which is exactly what you're going for.
Right.
Because they've used their sniffing and then they've been eating, which is also calming for them. And they've gotten destroy and tear things up, which they don't normally get to do. And they've burned energy in like 3 or 4 different ways, mentally and emotionally. And they're just like, whoop, that was great.
Right. And so you called that, did you say enrichment stacking?
Mhm.
What? Okay. So is there more that you can say about that to help people figure out how to do that, to understand good ways to do that for their dog?
Yeah, so enrichment stacking can really be done with anything. I always recommend that you do some kind of physical enrichment first. So whether that's, whatever playtime looks like for you. If that's fetch, if that's a flirt pole, if it's a swift pause, something where your dog is exerting energy, maybe an obstacle course in the backyard, jumping through hoops. Another one, a really great one, is a ball pit. You set up a
Oh,
ball pit with, in the backyard, like a kiddie pool with balls. And you don't
uh-huh.
have to get the balls, because I'll tell you, those balls are stupid expensive. So just get a bunch of your dog's different toys and throw them in the kiddie pool, and then throw the treats in there. And same thing, you can throw the recycling items in the baby pool as well, and just kind of let them, roam around in it. And that's a really, really fun one to just do. And then after that is when you would do something that's a little bit more calming. And that could be a puzzle toy or some kind of food related activity where it necessarily doesn't have to be a lick mat, but something where they're, taking it apart with their mouth, they're sniffing, they're licking, all of the things. And then after that, end with a really amazing lick mat, which a favorite lick mat of mine would be to take an egg and scramble it and then put it on the lick mat and microwave it for 2 minutes. And
Oh,
it's just really, it takes forever for them to get through it. Or, peanut butter, pumpkin, whatever you want to do, spread it on there and freeze it, or your chew. And then now you have an enrichment stack. You've done 3 activities. And by
right,
the time they get to their chew, they're done. They're
right,
ready to chill.
right. And and so it sounds like what you're pointing out is that, I mean, number one, you need to understand this, the predatory cycle, to know how to put these things in order. You have to understand which parts maybe of that your dog is really attracted to, so that you can provide that. And then you have to understand what your own hopes and expectations are, but then you have to match that with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I think it's really tricky to see the dog that's in front of you and not the dog that you hope that you have, or the dog that your neighbor has, or, I mean, it's the
The
same.
dog you used to have.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same
Yeah.
with kids, right? Or with partners or with friends. I mean, we often are seeing what we hope for, not what's right what's right in front of us.
Well, and I think that a lot of that comes with, again, with social media, and where we are shown this picture perfect lifestyle with dogs. And so then we're
Yeah,
like, oh, well, my dog should be like that. Well,
right.
no. I mean, I always tell people, it's like when you were growing up and you wanted to be this unique individual, and you wanted to do what you wanted to do and think how you wanted to think, and you didn't want your parents to control you and all that kind of stuff. Give the same courtesy to your dog. Like, your dog is growing up and they are trying to be who they are. And there is something beautiful about accepting who your dog is. And I
Yeah,
think that if people could just learn to love, like you said, the dog in front of them, it would be so much easier on the rescue community, for
yeah,
starters.
yeah, yeah. And so that really points to just the expectations that we often bring to this whole thing, to our dogs, and then to enrichment and what we're hoping that it's going to do. So one of the things that you and I talked about was is this idea of, there are things that we think of as calming, for our dogs, that actually end up being overstimulating for them. And I that's not something that I had thought about. And so I would really like to hear more about that.
Sure. So I learned this lesson the hard way. So anybody that I can help not learn this lesson the hard way, I'm happy to do, because my dog Fitz is a big, big active guy. He is high energy. He's always wants to be doing something, always wants to be into something. And I was always like, oh my gosh, we have done this and this and this and this and this and this. And he's still got gas in the tank. Like, what the heck am I doing wrong? Well, as I said before, I had never heard of enrichment. So we were putting too much value on, we went for a walk, we went for a car ride, we played fetch for 3 hours, we played and played and played and played and played and played, but we never did anything to wind down from the playing. So it wasn't that I had a dog that was high energy. I had a dog that was overstimulated and had no idea how
Right.
to calm down. And I didn't know that. Like I just, he's mostly border collie. So I was like, well, this must just be his genetics. And yes, it is his genetics
Yeah.
because border collies work all day long. But also I had taught him how to wind up so much and never taught him to wind down. And so really enrichment really is a balance. You really have to do, like you said, follow the predatory sequence, and you have to find the things that your dog enjoys and then rotate them so that you're
Right.
not doing the same thing all of the time. And you need to be able to take those activities, whether it's a lick mat or a woof popsicle or, some kind of interactive toy, and just help them wind down a little bit, and then they'll relax. For us now, we have worked it into so much of a routine that I can literally just say to him, I'm going to say it and hopefully he doesn't get too excited.
You
Let's
can
go hang
whisper it.
out.
And you say what?
We say, let's go hang out.
Oh,
And that means,
see him walking in the background.
Yep. That means go lay on the bed and watch TV.
Oh,
And
right.
so he'll go in and he'll lay on the bed, and I'll give him something, whether it's a chew or a lick mat or a popsicle or whatever. He'll get that and he'll just wind himself down.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and then he'll chill out for a while. And then, about 2 hours later, I swear to God, this dog knows when a show or a movie is over. Like he knows what the credits are because he's up and he's ready to go again.
Well, I have thought for years, and I don't really think it's such a crazy idea that our dogs read our energy, because a number of years ago, we had 2 labs and they were just about 6 months apart. And our routine is to walk in the morning, especially on the weekends. And so, we'd be sitting at the breakfast table, we'd be eating. Nobody would say anything, like, okay, we're almost done. It's time to go on the walk. But we were almost done and it was time to go on the walk. And I think my thoughts were going that way. My husband's thoughts were going that way. And I think there was really something about our energy that changed, because we would still just be sitting there and suddenly they would both like pop up, like, we're ready to go. And I was like, what are they doing? But I do think there was something subtle in us that was shifting, and they know that.
So it's actually something that we talk about in training. It's called precursor cues.
Yeah.
And precursor cues are things that you do before something else happens. And they
Yeah.
do pick up on that because dogs are the masters of picking up on patterns. So if you have given your dogs a consistent routine of this is how every single morning goes, and by the time she puts her fork down and she doesn't touch it for 15 seconds, we're going on a walk.
Yes.
Like it's the most subtle, ridiculous things that they know. Like I always tell people, my dogs know when I put on human clothes.
Yes.
They know, they're like, if I'm wearing my pajamas, we're hanging out in the backyard all day. But if I put on my training overalls or my leggings or jeans or whatever, they're like, oh, mom's leaving. Like they get it. Those are precursor cues. And so it's super important to like realize that you're doing those things, but it's also super important to implement those things because that is a form of communication that dogs understand.
Yeah. And those things are so subtle, and many times we're not even aware of what those cues are. So it really takes some paying attention maybe to your own behaviors, or even just, I honestly think your own, like the way you're thinking changes and the way that maybe shifts your energy. It's pretty amazing to see.
And dogs can smell emotion. So when when you're thinking about things, or you start to get upset about something, or happy
Yeah.
about something, excited about something, that shift in your genetic makeup and coding and all that stuff, whatever it's called, I don't even know what pops out when you're, bleeding emotions out of you, but dogs can smell that.
Well,
So
I think it's energy. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know exactly the form of it, but we had a lab that if we would be having a discussion and like a disagreement and like mild, I mean, we're not like yellers or whatever, but there would be some tension and the dog would go and get in the closet, and then like we would both look around like, oh wow, like we didn't even realize, I mean, it had gone up like, you know, a centimeter, and we're like, oh, okay. She doesn't like this. It makes her uncomfortable. It's really,
Yeah,
really
and
wild.
and it's weird little things, like there's things that shift in dogs over the years, right? Both of my dogs sleep in the bed with me, and they both like to snuggle. One sleeps on one side, one sleeps on the other side. But for some reason lately, Toby, the little one, has decided that he wants to sleep right next to Fitz, and Fitz does not want Toby to sleep right next to him. He wants his space. And so Fitz will get up and he'll come out here in the living room and hang
Oh,
out and sleep on the couch because he doesn't want Toby to sleep next to him. And he'll wait
huh.
until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when Toby is asleep, and then he'll come back so that Toby doesn't try to sleep with him. It's the strangest thing. All of his life, Fitz wanted Toby's attention, and now Toby's old enough and chill enough to give it to him, and Fitz doesn't want it anymore.
It's the shift in the sibling sibling attention.
Yep. Yep.
So how would you recommend that people find, number one, just in general enrichment activities, and number two, find the particular thing that works for their dog?
Okay. So, number one, I have a free enrichment book.
Oh,
It's a 60-page book. It's called Paws, Brains, and Fun. And
oh
it's
wow.
a book that I wrote after I finished my enrichment certification. And it is full. I'm sorry, he's so drunk.
Oh,
Hey, come here. Come here. Why don't you just lay down?
so what she's referring to is that her dog had to have a little vet procedure and had to be a little bit sedated because of anxiety, and so he's still feeling a little sideways from that. And he
Yeah,
just
he's
bumped
stumbling
into
around
something,
the living room.
fell off the couch or
Oh,
something. Poor
poor
thing.
guy. But yeah, so I have a 60-page enrichment book, and it is full of lots of activities, the ones that I mentioned earlier, and tons more. And there's also a little instructional video that it
Huh.
links to on YouTube, and it shows you
Uh-huh.
2 or 3 different activities that you can do at home. And most of the things are things that you can do without having to purchase anything. You can use, if it's the obstacle course, things in your house. You can use chairs, you can use brooms, you can use baskets, anything that will help you, help it make it a little bit different of a terrain
Uh-huh.
kind of situation.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, I have videos on YouTube that teach you how to teach your dog how to play scent games, which are
Uh-huh.
super amazing for dogs. Very simple steps to help. And you can always message me and ask me questions. I'm always happy to help with that kind of stuff. But there's a couple of ways that you can do it for free. But also, search YouTube and really deep search Instagram, but look for people who know what they're talking about, and look for accounts that are recommending that you do things other than lick mats. I mean, like I said, lick mats are great. They have their place, but those
Right.
should be finishers, not starters, or
Yeah.
not the whole routine, right? There needs to be a whole lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
And the calmer you want your dog, the more energy and effort you're going to have to put into it too.
Yeah.
Like, you do need to prepare for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then figuring out what your dog likes, try it. Try everything, experiment, try a different combination of things. Maybe one day your dog wants to play with the flirt pole and then get into the ball pit, and then, have a chew. Or maybe the next day they want to play with the swift paws, and then they want to just do a food scatter in the yard, and then they want to lay down and have a lick mat or a popsicle on the bed. Like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you do something the different every day or if you do something the same every day. If they like it and they
Yeah.
participate in it and you get the result you want, do it. That's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yeah. Well, your point about experimenting, I think, is really important. And then, of course, observing closely what your dog likes and what your dog doesn't. We have about a 16, 17-month-old dog. We got her as a rescue. We got her from a lab rescue, but she is a quarter lab. She's about half Australian Shepherd.
Oh.
And this is a really new experience for us. And it's been really interesting because I am used to, we've had a long history of labs or mostly labs. And I'm used to a lab that you can take on a walk and play a little fetch, and then it'll come inside and go to sleep for 5 hours.
Not an Aussie.
Not. And I'm still really working to figure out these things with her, what kind of enrichment, number one, that she likes, and then number two, that will, like, what is the right balance between exercise and then other enrichment that actually does help her calm down. And this idea of the stacking, and that it's important to do it in a certain order, where there's the energy burning and then some other things that use energy excuse me, that use energy but aren't quite so ramped up, like the dog park or fetch or something like that, and then something that's super calming. That's something that I'm really interested in focusing more on, because I think that will really help a lot with
Well,
her.
I'll give you the link to my book, and then obviously you can go through it and ask me any questions that you want to ask me, because
Okay.
that is why I created it. I mean, what
Yeah.
you're experiencing is what I experienced. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was probably 4 years. I think Fitz was about 4 years old before I learned about enrichment. So I cried myself to sleep and pulled my hair out for 4 years before I finally realized, oh, we've been missing so much. And now I
Yeah.
have a dog that chills out, which is wild to me, because
Yeah.
I never would have been able to do what I'm doing now, especially with the podcast and sitting still in one place for so long with him the way that he used to be. There's just no way
Yeah.
it would have happened.
Yeah. Well, I will get the link from you and I'll put it in the show notes for people. That would be great. So one of the other things that we talked about was, I think you recall, you called them like big feeling dogs. And I think you're referring probably to reactive dogs, largely in that. So can you speak to that a bit, reactive dogs and enrichment?
Yeah. So again, Fitz is a reactive dog. Toby, this guy here on my left, he's also a reactive dog. They're just reactive in different ways. And if we're being fair, I would say that probably 98% of dogs are reactive. They're just varying degrees of reactive, right? As
And so for
humans,
people who maybe aren't familiar with that term, can you just describe what that means and maybe how it looks for different dogs?
sure. So I always try so carefully to use like words that are not jargony. So for a reactive dog, that's why I call them big feeling dogs, right? Because
Okay.
they express their feelings in ways that we as humans might not recognize or understand right away. So this is a thing that would look like an ear twitching the same way, or an ear position that maybe we're not familiar with, like slicked back, out to the side, pointing down. This could be a tail position, straight out, hanging low, tucked underneath between the legs, not up and wagging. Like up and wagging is generally a pretty like good indicator of I'm okay with this. But if it's up and wagging and then the hair is bristled on the butt or the neck, not okay. Okay. That's the thing that I will always say, is that a wagging tail does not mean a happy dog. You have to look at the rest of the body in order to see. Lip licking, showing teeth, minor or major vocalization, growling, grunting, snarling, snapping, any of those
Barking,
things. Yeah,
barking.
barking, or even like making those weird wailing sounds that dogs make sometimes. You just really have to pay attention. Some dogs, when they're nervous, they'll pace or they'll retreat and hide.
Mm-hmm.
Other dogs will like rush forward and get right up on you and then run away. You really just have to be observant, I guess, is the thing. And unfortunately, I think that most people just don't understand dog body language. We've been taught all of our lives, here, smell my hand, smell my hand. I am a nice person. I like you. That dog, first of all, does not need to smell your hand. It smelled you before you walked in the door.
Before you came around the corner.
Yeah. The dog smelled you a long time ago.
Yeah.
And also, like, giving dogs like advocacy and choice in these situations. Don't force a dog to interact with you, because that's when you trigger those things. So those behaviors can be seen like interacting with people or interacting with other dogs. So you just have to be really, really pay attention. And that's, again, something that doesn't happen very well at dog parks. People will say they're just playing, or let them work it out. And you should absolutely not just let them work it out, because sometimes there are dogs who are bad communicators, just like there are humans that are bad communicators.
Right.
I have a dog that's a bad communicator, and he got attacked because of it, and I've seen other dogs get attacked because of it. And it's usually the dog attacking is the dog that's like insecure or frightened in the situation. Yeah. It's usually not the confident dog that's like attacking other dogs. The confident dog is usually breaking up the fight or walking away from it and just kind of neutralizing the situation. But unfortunately, people don't understand. They think their dog is being nice or having fun, and the dog is not. So you just really have to learn how to read dog body language. There's lots of information out there on the internet about that. I'm actually currently in the process of writing a book on that. And it will have videos and pictures that show exactly what I'm talking about. So if I'm talking about hair raised on the hackles or on the neck, there are pictures of Fitz in those situations where I've been able to, and that's kind of why the book isn't published yet, because I haven't been able to catch everything on film, so that people can see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what you're looking for. And then look at their dog and see where it's similar to that, so that they can kind of infer what their dog is saying to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really helpful. And, sometimes things are obvious, like, the barking or the growling, but there are other things that you were pointing to of, maybe ear position or tail tucked or whatever, that can be a lot more subtle, and that you have to learn about, maybe to know to watch for. So I think that could be really helpful.
Yeah. Dogs don't react out of nowhere. I guess that's the most important thing that like anybody should hear, is that dogs, like biting, barking, lunging, that is like a final like warning. If a dog gets to that point, you have ignored at least 4 or 5 other things, because they will do so many other things, the tail, the ears, the tongue, the teeth showing, maybe the noise making, whatever, all of that, that's a progression, right? Just like with enrichment being a progression to lower them down, amping them up into that, like, I am totally irritated with this situation, I'm going to react. That is also a progression. And dogs are really good about giving warning signs. We're just really bad at seeing them.
Right. Huh, that's really interesting and super helpful. I'll look forward to your next book. So is there anything, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would really like people to know about enrichment and using it with their dogs?
Yeah. I would love to tell you that enrichment can be the best way to bond with your dog. I think that relationship with our dogs is sometimes taken for granted. And sometimes it's not as strong as we would like to think that it is. And just doing simple things like letting your dog eat from your hand or scattering food on the floor and letting them eat around you, making, a fun game out of, scent finding or the ball pit, things like that, where you can sit and laugh at your dog while they have a good time. Those are really excellent ways to bond with your dog, because your dog is having fun and they remember that they had fun with you, and that builds trust and rapport, and that makes them, more likely to ask for the activity again and approach you and, then seek you out for cuddles and things like that afterwards, because they're exhausted, they're fulfilled, and they've had a wonderful time, and now they just want to rest with you. So I definitely take advantage of those moments because they're so important.
Well, and I think one of the things you're pointing out too is that it does take time, that for the best outcome, we can't just take our dog on a 20-minute walk twice a day, that there really needs to be more direct interaction with the dog in terms of the enrichment activities, and that, sometimes it's okay to, put a lick mat down or a frozen toy, but that it really needs to be more, interactive for the best and the strongest bond with your dog.
Yeah. And also, like what you said about walks there, don't be afraid to not walk your dog. Fitz does not like going on walks, so we're very selective about when we go on walks. If we can go on a walk in the middle of the day when like everybody's at school and work, perfect, because we won't run into anybody. But if the kids are out and their skateboards and bikes and screaming and moms and strollers and stuff, it's just not a good atmosphere for us. And now we are sending our dog right into that overstimulation area, and the walk is not benefiting our dog in the way that we would like for it to. So don't be afraid to go against the grain and not do what everybody is telling you to do. You got to do what's right for your dog.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that reminder. We need it all the time, and in most areas of life, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's the same thing like with dog parks and all that kind of stuff too. If your dog doesn't like fetch, don't make your dog play fetch. If your dog doesn't like other dogs, don't go to the dog park.
Yeah.
There's so many things there, and there's nothing wrong with it. It just means that you are being the best dog parent to your dog that you can be, because you're listening to your dog.
Right. So I have one last question for you. And this can be true or aspirational or whatever you want it to be. But if you were a dog, what kind of dog would you be, or want to be, or however you want to answer it?
I for sure think I would be a mutt. I've always had mutts, and I think that mutts they just have so much spunk and so much personality, and they always tend to have better health situations than the dogs who are purebred anymore. But I think that, as humans, we're kind of all mutts anyway, right? We all have little pieces of everything. And so I would rather have little pieces of lots of things than have to stick to being one thing. So I would 100% be a mutt.
We have a Sodapup, a sub brand called Mutts Kick Butt. So it speaks to the wonderfulness of mutts.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your information, and I'm really look forward to looking at your ebook, and we'll provide the link to that in our show notes, as well as the link to all your other social platforms.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sodapup Enrichment Lab podcast. We hope you've learned new ways to keep your dog enriched and entertained. You can find more information about our guest and how to contact us in this episode's show notes. You can find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also view it on the Sodapup Enrichment Lab YouTube channel and on our website at sodapup.com. If you enjoyed this episode, you can help us by subscribing, by recommending the podcast to others, and by leaving a review. Thanks. We'll see you next time.